Okay, my name's Adam, and here's a look at the slides that I put together for these readings and the video on participatory culture. So to summarize the readings first, the first one talked a lot about podcasts and how they're a great accessible means for participating in a community, especially compared to like traditional radio where everything had to be synchronous. Obviously, podcasts are accessible to everybody. Anybody with a microphone and a friend, or even alone, can do a podcast. And that just kind of opens the world to a lot of different people who can have their opinions heard. The research in the reading mentions 6 enhancers of sense of community, those being liveness, community size, parasociality, participation intensity, transmediality, and that shared intimacy and trust. It also talks about how fan fiction communities are a participatory space. Those are obviously open to anyone who has an interest in, the type of fiction you're consuming, Game of Thrones fan fiction, Harry Potter fan fiction, whatever it might be. And there's those spin off into all of their own little universes as well. And looking at that and how AI affects that, I thought initially there was going to be a lot of AI generated content, and because I can only assume that that's a and like enticing way to get into it, right? Like, oh, I can just put into AI my favorite characters doing this and that and the other. But a lot of the research said that it's mainly to help the writing and like planning process for a lot of these communities. Right now, not a lot to actually do the creating. As far as the videos, they talked a lot about how learning outside of the classroom can support learning inside the classroom, right? Like students are, learning in all kinds of different spaces, right? They have funds of knowledge, different communities of practice, the soccer team, dance team, whatever it might be. So how can we model our classrooms to, help our students learn better based on the spaces they already engage with voluntarily? Like, can we use digital spaces to support classroom learning and community? Should we model blended classroom spaces on those asynchronous platforms that young people are on these days? A couple things that Jenkins said that I liked were that participatory culture does not have to be digital. He envisions like a world where everyone participates, and I thought that was a cool idea. And also says that maybe in school we can teach students how to interact with social media in a healthy way instead of just banning it, right? Looking at the readings again, I agreed with a lot of what was said. Younger students gain more affinity for online spaces, and they're digital natives at this point. So, can we emulate those spaces in the classroom to up their engagement? Or just take the elements they like, the camaraderie, the shared experiences. Can we establish that in a classroom culture? Also, in a couple classes this summer, I've done, a podcast as a submission for an assignment. And I'm wondering if I can use that in my teaching, as an accessible way for students to get their thoughts down. If they're not as comfortable writing, maybe they're comfortable talking about something, right? Fan fiction also can be a great tool for creative writing skills, for students of all ages, right? Oh, you don't like that ending? Write your own ending, right? Maybe that's a good way to practice those skills. I have seen, a little bit of AI generated content, but not too much, but it's out there. And I would be curious to read a little more about the negatives of like parasocial relationships, right? Like a lot of YouTube streamers, or like the Amazing Digital Circus was in the news recently for how their community reacted to something that's going on. So it'd be interesting to read a little more about those one-sided relationships that people can develop, and how and why those things occur. Finally, reacting to the videos. I agree with Jenkins. I like that idea that if we can have a world where people participate, that makes things a lot better. And that participatory culture does not have to be digital. It can be in person. I had this thought about student engagement. How can we use what we learn from participatory culture to improve student engagement in class? It is interesting to see Jenkins's approach to social media with children. Like, a lot of countries right now are banning social media outright. Maybe we should teach them how to use it instead. And it's also important to ensure that AI is not used to replace thinking, but maybe, take away some of the laborious tasks. Cool. Thanks for listening.